Exactly. Once we find out where the Vaadwaur plan to attack, we can reinforce the Kobali and find out what, if anything, they're hiding.
The Kobali are hiding something from us, the Delta Alliance, and the reason for the Vaadwaur assault on their homeworld may be tied to this secret, and it's one that we need to understand in order to best defend our new allies, but the Kobali have been less than forthcoming. To this end, Captain Kim has decided that we can attempt to hack into the Vaadwaur comms, not only for a tactical advantage, but because they may yield some clue as to the true target of this siege. The first of these communications towers we're going to target is in the northwest corner of the battlefield, where they've been making a push into the ruins of the residential district. The other towers, however, are far more difficult to access. In order to accomplish this, we're going to have to go deep into enemy territory beyond the western outskirts and into the trenches manned by the Vaadwaur. These are across a natural boundary and into the hilly grasslands where the rocky terrain gives way to sparse plant life. This lack of cover is the reason for the dug-in trenches. It can be tempting in this war zone to just sprint across the open ground or through the barricades, twisting around patrols to evade fire, but I often found this to be a rather poor tactic, as the Vaadwaur are rather tenacious and will pursue you for quite a distance, often peppering you with more shots, debuffs, and ultimately drawing more enemies by the time you give up trying to outrun them. Therefore, it's better to methodically pick your targets and put down squadrons before patrols reach them and join in. Equally, trying to navigate over the trenches to avoid patrols can be just as time-consuming as fighting your way through them, as enemies within these dugout fortifications will often spot you and climb out to engage. With time, we finally reach the second of our target comms and have to fight back the guarding Vaadwaur. Once the area is secure, we'll have to move quickly to tap the comm tower, as enemies will respawn and beam in frequently to keep the zone populated. Having driven out a large amount of the enemies from the trenches on our way over, we make the decision to go back through them to avoid any more surface fire. However, we do still encounter some resistance from fresh patrols. Things go awry somewhat when converging paths funnel Vaadwaur at us from two sides, and Dr. STOSS, our medic, is injured from the crossfire. Patching her up, we press to get out of here as quickly as possible. We reach our final target, secure it, and place our comm tap. Temet, on the Armiger in orbit, receives the interlink signal and confirms that the Armiger is now eavesdropping on Vaadwaur comm traffic. Within minutes, the tap is cut short. It seems that the Vaadwaur aren't stupid. They noted our targets and surmised our plans, securing their network quickly. We managed to ascertain, however, that the bulk of the Vaadwaur offensive is aimed at securing the temple on the outskirts of town, not the city proper. It is heavily protected by vault doors, and now the Vaadwaur have found a way to breach the gates of the temple, and they're preparing for a major push. We call our findings to Kim.
Your timing is impeccable. A large squad of armed Kobali just left, but they wouldn't say where they were going. Did you find any information?
Those Kobali are likely responding to an attack on the temple. That seems to be the Vaadwaur's target.
The temple? That must be where the Kobali are going. We have to help the Kobali defend that temple. Afterwards, maybe we can see why it's so important to the Vaadwaur.
Agreed. Secretive or not, the Kobali are still our allies, and well, I'm in the neighbourhood. Getting the short distance to the temple, however, can be a major pain in the arse, as there are a lot of Vaadwaur forces surrounding the structure. Once we get here, we can see that the Kobali really have dug in. This area is just as defended as the city itself, with anti-air and barricades. It lacks a protective shield, however, and the Vaadwaur have not levelled the building either. Why don't they just crush it from orbit? On the way here, though, it seems my team has become separated. I'm sure they'll turn up eventually, but until that happens, Captain Hale here is going to have to repel the Vaadwaur with the Kobali defenders by himself. Progress on the defence increases in a King of the Hill fashion. Keeping enemy forces out of the secure point increases the progress, while contested territory halts it, while numbers of troops weighted in the Vaadwaur's favour decreases the progress. We hold out long enough for the Kobali reinforcements from inside the city to make it to the temple. They're able to secure the bridge. However, it appears the Kobali have actually opened the temple doors.
The temple is secure and the doors to it are still open? This is our chance. Go ahead. I'll be there as soon as I can.
You know, I really need the toilet. I wonder if there's one inside the temple. I'll just go check.
Looks like we've made it to the lowest level of the temple. Let's see what's in there.
Maybe a bathroom. So this temple is rather larger than it seems. There's a whole underground complex. This sort of installation could have been a major asset for the Kobali, one that we could have factored into our defensive plans if we'd known about it. A few steps in though, and we find a deceased Kobali, however. Uh-oh. Analysis reveals Vaadwaur weapon signatures. It seems that somehow during the assault, some enemy troops got behind us and made it inside. As disruptor fire flashes by us, we take cover to peer ahead and spot a squadron of Vaadwaur. We open fire on the intruders, well, other intruders, whatever it is they're after in here. They wanted enough to siege the Kobali for months and not just level this structure. Beyond some misted windows, we can see a lot of electrical equipment, banks of computers and Kobali interfaces. We press on and find a second group drawn by the fire of the first squad. These tunnels are expansive but rather linear. All the other chambers seem accessible. Whatever's in here, we can't uncover it without dealing with the Vaadwaur first and saving any remaining Kobali. Scanning the corridor as we go, we find a sealed door and a cluster of 3 soldiers around someone on the floor. We take them down as quickly as possible. It looks like the person was an injured Kobali woman, Metia. We help her to her feet.
Thank you. If you are here, then it means our secret is revealed. I am sorry, but we did what we needed to survive.
Okay. Can you open this door?
Take this. It is the code to open the door. Please, do not judge our people too harshly. You would have done the same if you faced extinction.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I don't like the sound of this. Let's have a look.
That's a lot of stasis pods.
Oh no. Gaul wasn't lying. He told us that Kobali had access to stasis pods.
Let's get a scan of these. We need to know more.
But I thought this was all bluster. After all, it was from a man who orchestrated an elaborate charade of peace talks and regularly commits war crimes. There must be thousands of cryopods here. And there's one on the table. Let's get a look. I want to give the Kobali the benefit of the doubt here, but this looks pretty bad. A scan reveals this pod's occupant to be a Vaadwaur civilian. From the looks of it, all of these pods contain non-military personnel, all Vaadwaur. However, a small percentage of the pods have failed with time, and the deceased Vaadwaur have been extracted, at least 300 in the past 10 years, and the Kobali have been here for 90. In fact, it seems that many of the Kobali we have encountered may actually be rebirthed from the bodies that once sat in these tubes. We look into the available logs of these cryopods and find that this temple was actually a Vaadwaur bunker like the one discovered by Voyager in 2376. None of these active pods have been tampered with, however, and the offline ones seem to have failed due to fault over time.
I never imagined that we would find this. The Vaadwaur aren't fighting the Kobali over territory. They want their people back. This is why the Kobali stopped wandering. Everything they needed was here. It's not right. Some of the Vaadwaur in the stasis tubes could still be revived. The Vaadwaur are a dying race. Their methods may be extreme, but they're doing what they think they need to do to survive, just like the Kobali are.
This is a bit of a mess. It looks like the Kobali haven't actually killed anyone. They're just standing by and waiting to see which pod fails. which unfortunate occupant will die next so that they can revive them as Kobali. We can remind Kim that it's our duty to protect the Kobali and that this changes nothing.
But their culture is directly interfering with that of the Vaadwars. Is that right? Just because we like one side better doesn't mean they're the ones who get to survive. Regardless, we need to take this information to the General and get him to explain why they hid this from us.
Or we can say that we need to step in, inform someone. This needs to be known.
I'm glad you agree with me. We need to take this information to the General and get him to explain why they hid this from us. If the Kobali had been up front with us from the start, we could have figured out a better solution for this.
Either way, we choose to confront General Connell, as there's no way Starfleet is not going to hear about this, and this might change things drastically.
You've both returned.
General, we know about the temple. When were you going to tell us?
Secrecy protected our future, Captain.
Secrecy costs you trust.
How are we supposed to help you if you won't even tell us what the problem is?
That's enough, Captain.
Captain Dralia, you're late.
The Kazon delayed me. What's the situation?
The Kobali temple is full of Vaadwaur stasis pods that the Kobali are using to reproduce.
I see. Captain Kim, no matter our personal feelings, we must follow the Prime Directive. We are not here to change the Kobali culture. We are here to protect them.
Awkward.
We'll talk more about this in private. I'm sure we'll see you again soon.
Captain? We talked to the General, and for what it's worth, he apologises for lying to us. He says that he has found that many species detest the Kobali for their nature and see them as grave diggers, but stealing people. It is something they have learned to deal with, but often they just try not to advertise it, burying the grisly details of their culture, so this seemed the most wise course of action when they encountered us here too. He suggests that the Vaadwaur will not stop, even if the Kobali return the cryopods to them, and he's right, I can't picture the Vaadwaur halting their war.
Before we begin, I must apologize on behalf of the Kobali people. We meant no harm in using the Vaadwaur. When we found the stasis pods, many of them were damaged beyond saving. We honored their fallen by using their forms to preserve our species. The Vaadwaur, however, do not. Our ways are difficult to understand. For some, they may be reprehensible. No matter what the Vaadwaur think, we cannot end this practice without dooming our species to extinction. And that we will not do. Jetanian has sent word that he needs aid. Are you willing to help him?
So until we receive orders otherwise, it's business as usual, right? I understand the Kobali's actions, I really do. They find these pods where many have died, create new Kobali, and leave the Vaadwaur in their cryopods, as, unlike us, they're aware of the Vaadwaur's 700-year-old totalitarian empire and their reputation. Then the Vaadwaur unexpectedly return and discover that their colony world is now Kobali Prime, and I bet they didn't even ask for the return of their people, and from what I've seen, Gaul would have just found an excuse to attack the Kobali anyway, all the while claiming injustice. Ultimately, the Kobali have made for themselves their own time bomb. If they revived the Vaadwaur, they risked conflict, and if they leave them, they're refusing to help and just playing the part of carrion crows, waiting to see which Vaadwaur snuffs it next, so that they can have their corpse. Likewise, I can see the affront that the Vaadwaur have taken at seeing their brethren transformed like this, without consent. Then again, they died through no fault of the Kobali. This is a moral dilemma indeed, one where I can understand both viewpoints, and it's hard not to let my personal bias for the kinder Kobali interfere. We'll have to see what the Federation and Alliance make of this mess. Meanwhile, for us, it's back to the trenches.